The Ukrainian strikes have never been so intense as they are right now. One more Russian oil facility was hit the last night quite successfully. It's located in the Krasnodarsky Krai, not far away from Ukraine. Well, there is the oil refinery facility in the place, as well as the oil storage, oil logistics. You may see also there is the train with some sort of the tanks. And all of that was kaboomed last night with the help of Ukrainian Neptune missiles, as well as the UAV drones. I think that it is the first time that Ukraine uses Neptune missiles to target Russian oil infrastructure. Before, they were used to target the Russian Moskva ship and also Russian military airfield in Saki, Crimea. Well, as we see, they're really successful with that. And according to the latest satellite image, Russia lost the train as well as several of the oil tanks. Russia also uses this port for their oil export, but I think that they'll pause it for some time. Guys, we have some of the interesting news coming from Belgorod Oblast, Russia just right now. It seems like we have a new stage in this war. Then Ukraine is allowed to use Western-made weaponry on the Russian territory, targeting military infrastructure, which is based in Belgorod, close to Kharkiv. So yes, Ukraine has the approval. Alright, the news about the permission for Ukraine to use the Western-made weaponry on the Russian territory is not the secret anymore. Why? Well, mainly because we have almost 200 articles published about this topic with reference to officials, and today Ukrainian officials also confirmed that. I got this information at first using the Ground News platform. I check it every day and I highly recommend you to follow it also with my personal link. You may find it in the video description just below. It's ground.news/Dennis. Using the Ground News, you may find all of the origin sources which are covering the topic. For example, first of all, let's check out the Russian side. Oh my god, just look at this. Congress calls Biden crazy for authorizing strikes on Russia. Yeah. All of the Congress or not? No. A Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, say that Joe Biden is crazy, and here they put in the title Congress. So yeah, I sometimes check the Russian news here as well. Thankfully, with the Ground News platform, I may access it very fast. It's just for me to laugh sometimes and to see what Russian media are sharing to their people just to understand their bias. It's interesting. But if we check out the Kiev Post article about the case, they give more balanced report about the situation, explaining which countries allow Ukraine to use their weapons on the Russian soil. And from the latest information, yes, I'm gonna tell you later in this video, Germany also agreed on that. I like the Ground News platform because it gives you all the necessary information before you even start learning about the particular topic. The factuality report, as for me, is very important. And this one has a high factuality. Also, I constantly use this map to find the news origin. Also, if you want to check the original article about the topic, you may check the factuality report, the ownership of the media, and the bias distribution right over here. For example, those articles have high factuality, but the Russian RIA Novosti, as you can see, low factuality report. So if you want to check out this sort of information, be aware that the news might not be based on facts, but on fiction, as we saw before. I use the Ground News not just to obtain the information about Ukraine, but about the worldwide news. It keeps me updated on the situation around election campaign in the United States and around topics in the Middle East. And also they have a dedicated chapter for the war in Ukraine, so it's very important. My friends, I highly recommend you to subscribe for the Ground News platform because they rely just on our subscriptions. You may do it with my personal link in the video description just below. It's ground.news/Dennis. And by doing so, you also help my channel. You support the job that I do on YouTube because Ground News is the constant sponsor of my channel and obviously of this video. Also, you will obtain unlimited options on this platform. It will keep you updated all the time. So it's my high recommendation. Ground News is awesome. I was told that this source is kind of strange and it shares sometimes a Russian bias, but at this time they report legit information. So Ukraine armed forces appear to have likely launched their first attack. According to many of the online sources, Ukraine started its operation targeting the Russian military in Belgorod Oblast. It's the first try which is happening this night. I was told that this source is kind of strange and it shares sometimes a Russian bias, but at this time they report alleged information. So Ukraine armed forces appear to have likely launched their first attack on Belgorod region utilizing United States provided weapons, with footage appearing to show the launch of at least 8 rockets from HIMARS. Following by the air defense operation of the Russian Federation, you saw that on the video. Whether this attack will be successful or not, for now we are not sure. So what Ukraine might use for now is the HIMARS rocket artillery system, only equipped with the standard GMLRS missiles, not with ATACMS. Unfortunately for that, United States still hasn't granted the permission for Ukraine, but it's just a matter of time, as you understand. I think that our allies little by little are checking the red lines of the Russian Federation, of Putin himself, whether he's bluffing or not. Also, definitely the area for now is restricted to protect the Kharkiv city. For that, the range of the HIMARS GMLRS missiles is okay. At the same time, in Ukrainian sources, they say that United States gave the permission to use weaponry elsewhere around Ukraine. So maybe we see one picture in the open media sources, but totally different things are happening behind the curtain. What is also very important that Ukraine had obtained the permission to use Patriot systems over the Russian Federation territory to shut down the Russian military airplanes, because now they're dropping gliding bombs. They're really pain in the ass for Ukraine and for the Ukrainian army, because it's very hard to shut down those bombs. They do not have the thermal trace, so the only thing how you may cope with that threat is to shut down those airplanes in the skies or in the Russian airfields. But for that, obviously, Ukraine needs ATACMS permission. Otherwise, it's no-go. But as I told you, I'm sure that permission will be granted for ATACMS as well. So let's check out the range with HIMARS and let it be the standard missile, maybe like this one. Let's put it to Kharkiv and yes, Belgorod within the range. It means that the Russian military forces, their supply lines, all of that is under the threat close to the border. So, well, obviously it's better to use the longer range weapon in this case, but even this one will help a lot. And let's check out 165 kilometers ATACMS. Let's put it to the same place. Here you may see the range is wider, and we are not even speaking about 300 kilometers ATACMS missiles, which some say they are in Ukrainian army and some say no. I personally think that they are already presented because Ukraine targeted many airfields in Crimea only reachable with those missiles. As for the Patriot system, the range is mostly the same. And you know, Germany said that it will supply one more Patriot system to Ukraine, so fantastic news for today, my friends. Plus, we have numerous of the reports that Germany authorized the strikes on the Russian facilities on the Russian territory. For that, Ukraine also might use the modification of the German M270 using GMLRS missiles, pretty much the same as for HIMARS. So Russian soldiers who are now based in Belgorod region and before they thought that they are safe are now looking like that probably. They're damn scared because all of their military bases within the range will be hit very, very soon. For us, it's also very important to know the reaction of Moscow because they constantly say that it's the red line, West is escalating, Russia will respond with everything. Well, today there were some of the statements from the press secretary of Kremlin, so Putin's press secretary Peskov. Well, first of all, he told that the attempts to strike the Russian territory with American-made weapons have already been made. It shows the extent of the involvement of the United States in this conflict, so he didn't even criticize that. The rest of his speech was mostly dedicated to the diplomatic stuff. He says about the possible escalation in Europe that Kremlin agrees with Viktor Orban, what a surprise, who says that Europe has entered the stage of preparing for war with Russia. Well, Russia is now a threat to Europe, to democratic countries. That's why Europe is getting prepared. There is absolutely no opening about it. Nevertheless, Peskov said that Putin will hold an operational meeting with Security Council today. They'll discuss the Western-made weaponry approval for Ukraine. And it is the only official reaction from Russia on the allowance of the West, of America at first, to use their weaponry on the Russian territory. So all of the fears about some sort of the escalation, I think, are just useless. It was a punch, the escalation, right, from the United States, from our allies, but Russia swallowed it and they're mostly silent. Well, they say something in their propaganda TV, but in general, in their statements, No, they tried to avoid the topic. Well, probably this is the only guy who openly criticized the move of the West, saying that Russia will respond. If you didn't know, this is Dmitry Medvedev, the ex-Russian president and also alcoholic. As many say, he really drinks a lot, and after it, he goes to Twitter, he goes to his Telegram channel and writes absolute nonsense that even Elon Musk wouldn't publish on his page. He wrote again that Russia is not bluffing, it may use tactical nuclear weaponry against even some of the NATO powers in case the situation would escalate even further, but he writes that stuff regularly, so don't put attention on that. So Russia is more concerned about the peace meeting which will take place in Switzerland in a couple of weeks. Today we have the report from Reuters as well as from the Chinese officials that they will not join the Swiss peace conference on Ukraine. Unfortunately, it means that China supports escalation on the Russian side. It means that they will supply more weaponry and other technological equipment to the Russian army. Yeah, they openly tell that they recognize Ukraine with its old borders, with original borders of 1991. Then Ukraine got its independence together with Crimea, but unofficially they want Ukraine to surrender, to be occupied by Russia. We clearly see it. So they developed some sort of the peace plan together with Russia to force Ukraine for capitulation, basically. They call it peace agreement, alternative peace agreement, but it means that Ukraine should give up its army, give up its territories, and also there is the feature which Russia pushes, continue to push, some sort of the denazification. Basically, every Ukrainian citizen who doesn't like Putin fits to this term for them. Russians already announced that the government is not legit, Zelensky is not legit. It means that they want to put their own puppet government to rule Ukraine. And also they want to clean Ukraine from Ukrainian patriots. That's it. They want it to be like Belarus or something even worse. China is okay with it. For them, Ukraine is just a province of Russia. Alright, the last night a Ukrainian drone was spotted in Tatarstan, Russia, which is more than 1,500 kilometers away from Ukrainian border. I think that it was aimed to hit the Shahid drone production factory, which already was damaged a couple of months ago, but this time the drone strike wasn't so successful. Drone landed in the field. That's it. And this is the video showing the drone debris. According to the Pentagon report, the debris of the North Korean missiles, ballistic missiles, were found all over Ukrainian territory, mostly in the Kharkiv city and its settlements. It means that North Korea really supports Russia. Autocracies united with totally different ideology, but they united against democracies. Yeah, just compare ideology of fanatic Iran and, for example, communist China, or what is that in North Korea? Craziness, yeah, around Kim Jong-un. Alright, but what is happening on the ground? Russia tries to attack from the northern part. Today there were numerous of the attempts, in one of which Russia lost their T-90 Emperor Reef tank right in this hole from the aviation gliding bomb. They went into it and they stuck. They left the vehicle, run away, and Ukraine finished the tank using the FPV drone. This is not the only T-90 tank they lost today. There were some of the other videos which I only may publish on my Telegram channel, guys. Sorry, this platform is so restrictive that I'm unable to publish any sort of the videos or combat images from the front lines. I also published this video on my channel showing the Max Pro vehicle, American vehicle that was sent to Ukraine. It was under significant mortar fire. The fire was really precise. The shells were very close to the vehicle, but nevertheless it ran and it saved our personnel. The crew is okay, all the soldiers on board are okay as well. The outstanding performance vehicle. Russia doesn't have those. It's really fast and very robust. From the Washington Post article about the German approval for their weapon to be used on the Russian territory, we understand that Russia is getting ready to strike Sumy Oblast of Ukraine. Indeed, there are some of the proofs that Russia is sending their forces close to the Ukrainian border in Sumy, and Ukraine has already started the evacuation from the bordering villages and other settlements. Also, Russia might expand their attacks in Kharkiv Oblast too. Well, honestly, I thought that Russia might strike Sumy around 2 weeks ago, but they see that the operation in Kharkiv for them bogged down. There is no any movement, I mean no new ground gains. Russia is facing tremendous losses in Kharkiv, and with a new approval from the West, their bases will be hit on their territory, so they will suffer even more. To check it out, we need to go to the deep state military map, and as you can see, for how many? More than 10 days, there is no movement from the Russian side. Even though the defense lines weren't constructed according to the norms, it was a mistake of Ukraine and the Ukrainian command down near the Russian border, so Russians went ahead but finally were stopped. The fightings are ongoing for the Volchan city. I think that Russia will finally try to occupy this one, but so far they're not successful. Where Russia moved today is just a little in Chasiv Yar, so yesterday and today. The red area is over here too. They took several of the streets and the private households. Also, we see the attempt of the Russian army to expand their vectors of attack in Solovyovo village. So yesterday and today, they're now heading towards Novopokrovsk. Again, this is the movement. Plus, on the south, the village of Robotine, unfortunately, it's now partially under the Russian control. The Russian propaganda stated many times already that Robotine is liberated, as they say, but no, it is under Ukrainian control. It's not being occupied, even though Russia sends huge forces to occupy it. This video I was able to find on the Russian sources. They show how they send their new built tanks to the front lines. This is not T-90. I guess it is T-72, something like that, or maybe T-90. No, I think after all it's T-72. They have capabilities to produce their tanks. Whether it's enough to compensate their losses, well, I'm not sure. But at the same time, we see how Ukraine sends its forces also using railroad. Again, many of the tanks, I guess those T-64 tanks, some of the personnel, I believe, in those carriages, and other munition. I think those are the Leopard, yeah, Leopard 2 tanks for sure. So definitely supply lines are working for Ukraine too. Yemeni Houthis reported that they attacked the United States air carrier Davydov Eisenhower in the Red Sea. Well, the outcome of that attack is yet unknown. I will try to check out many of the sources, but many say that the attack was repelled. Well, indeed, it was, because the air carrier has significant air defense. Houthis cannot cope with that. A great day for Ukraine. There was the exchange of the prisoners of war 75 on 75. It's been a while since there were exchanges between Russian and Ukrainian side. Luckily, we see that sometimes they're happening. Lithuania can train Ukrainian troops if needed in Ukraine. Bloomberg article says, refers to the Prime Minister. Before we get the same information from France, and I believe that French President Macron will soon announce the replacement or displacement of the French army instructors to Ukraine. Well, if we look back in the history, we'll see that the United States sent their instructors to the countries which they supported, like for example South Korea. Soviet Union sent their forces or instructors to North Korea, but actually those were fighting army men, and definitely American and Soviet soldiers were fighting between each other, but in Korea, for example, especially pilots. Or the other example is Vietnam. So the same actually could happen with France. They may say that we're gonna send our instructors, but really they'll send their forces. Well, at the first stage, those could be instructors, but later on, well, I do not exclude that scenario too. About Donald Trump and his case, guys, thank you so much for clarification it into the comments that he cannot pardon himself because it's not a federal court which is involved in this case. It is the New York court. But still, from what I was able to read in the comments, Trump may appeal to this decision. It might also take some time, even though he was already found guilty by jury. And we're all waiting for the sentence. We'll see how it goes. However, it's just one of the cases of Donald Trump. There are many more. This one is about the bribes to the porn star in attempt to calm her down, which made things even worse for Donald Trump. If you did it, you did it. Why to violate the law next? Well, I don't have the words. It's just silly and stupid way to dig yourself into the courtroom and maybe even to jail, who knows. Well, I watched this video, the Trump's reaction on his felony. He was really disoriented, sad and frustrated, and maybe even panicking inside, but he didn't want to show it. I may call it with a single word, very concerned. Absolutely 100%, he didn't expect it to happen, as many of us, I think. So we'll see how it goes. It's interesting to follow this political stuff in the United States. It's not yet the Game of Thrones, but for sure Santa Barbara or something like that. And thank you guys for in a way educating me in the comment section, because I'm unaware of many of the things about the American jurisdiction. For me, it's kind of interesting. And we have the statements from some of the American politicians, like for example Speaker Mike Johnson, who says that it's the shameful day in American history. They believe that it is the job of the Biden's administration to dig down Donald Trump. The very similar stuff comes from Elon Musk. But I don't think that really Biden wants to dig Donald Trump into the jail. I think that Trump simply did it himself. Wrong decisions, wrong behavior, and here is the result. Biden was asked the question about Donald Trump's case on a press conference. Let's see what happened out there.
Tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will...
Yeah, MAGA supporters already say that he was laughing because he's responsible, but actually Joe Biden just was laughing at that question because it's nonsense. It is quite interesting that so many people believe in some sort of the conspiracy theories, but the real evidence, I mean the core is real, doesn't work for them. The drone unit of Magyar was deployed in Lipsy village. You may see the Lipsy sign back behind him, and it's very close to the front line. So Magyar will now operate on the northern part of Ukraine. Before he was on the south in Kherson Oblast, and he says that finally Ukraine has the permission to target many of the Russian interesting things on the Russian territory. Awesome. My friends, now don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And again, I call you to subscribe for the Ground News platform using my personal link in the video description just below. If you subscribe, you also support the job that I do on YouTube daily. My friends, thank you so much for your awesome support. Guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.